Hi, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us today. My name is Matthew Conisbee. I'm the recruitment director on what we call our executive degree programs here at Saïd Business School. And I'll introduce a few of my colleagues who are going to be joining us today. But just a very brief introduction about what we're going to be covering today on this webinar. First of all, so I'm actually just going to start by doing a very brief introduction to the 6 programs that we're addressing today, and to do with the financing and funding options. I'm going to keep that really quite brief because really what we want to do is concentrate on exactly that, the funding, the investment side of this. Obviously, there'll be a chance for a Q&A at the end of this session, and if anybody had any specific questions, we'd be more than happy to engage on a one-to-one basis at another time. So we're going to cover that a little bit at first. We're then going to move on to the various different funding options. Firstly, loan options, employer options, and also be covering scholarship options as well. I'm pleased to be joined by my colleague Sarah Hayton, who works on the recruitment side also for these programs. And I'm also very pleased to be joined by a couple of other people. One of our diploma students in financial strategy, Gerhard Mulder, and also an executive from Prodigy Finance, Ayula Alabi. So they will be talking a little bit later on in the webinar. So very briefly, the programs which we're covering today and the financing options cover. There are 6 programs in this portfolio. The first up there on the screen now is the MSc in Major Programme Management. The second, the Oxford Executive MBA, and then there are 4 postgraduate programs, diploma programs in strategic management. One in global business, one in financial strategy, organisational leadership, and strategy and innovation. And really, I brought up this slide. I wanted to just talk around this slide in terms of demographics because although the motivation to come on to choose one of those different programs will be slightly different, and obviously people will have slightly different backgrounds depending on what they choose, roughly the demographics are pretty similar actually between all 6 of those programs. So these are very much the executive level, and actually on average across these programs, the average age tends to be sort of late 30s to 40, something like that, but with a span between mid, normally late to late 20s, right into their 50s, and sometimes we have people, actually into their early 60s. So typically, and we'll sort of touch on this later, but typically, actually, people do self-fund these programs. And they do that in a number of different ways, which is obviously what we're going to be talking about today. But people sometimes do secure some form of sponsorship, financial sponsorship. But the other thing that's very important about all of this is time. These programs require a significant amount of time. Certainly the Executive MBA, which is 16 modules, week-long modules over 21 months. The MSc in Major Programme Management is 8 4-day modules over 2 years. The diploma is about half of that, basically. So we will be looking at time as well, and that's important when you're addressing that with your employer, as well as the financial side of it. Just very briefly, and then we're going to move straight on to the funding options. The benefits, why would you choose one of these? We get a lot of people, and in fact we offer a lot of executive education short courses here. And typically somebody that would come and choose one of these programs would want a much deeper dive into one of their subject areas, or in the Executive MBA case, the full complement of skills and tools. And obviously, so these are examined or certainly assessed in the MSc in Major Programme Management's case. In various different ways, and so there is an element of work that needs to be done between modules, and really it's along with the learning, it's really about gaining that full qualification from the University of Oxford, whilst being able to keep your full-time job. So the majority of people actually are Actually, most of them are flying in. We have a very international cohort on all of these programs, and so actually the majority of people are flying in and keeping their day jobs, and they're doing this alongside, which does make for quite a commitment, but obviously it's extremely worthwhile. Yeah, and just the last point on there, long-term transformation. It's a bit of a cliche, but I think it's important. I think it's absolutely true. People looking to do this are not looking for sort of a short burst in a bit of strategy or a bit of leadership or a bit of innovation or something like that. They're really looking to completely change their mindset, and so as a result of that, obviously there is an investment that needs to be made, first time-wise and also financially. Very briefly on the screen here, before I pass on to my colleague Sarah, you'll see the various different fees there. The Executive MBA, the current fee is just over £72,000, including the college fee. You can see the time investment there, which I already mentioned on the Executive MBA side. The diplomas are effectively 4 modules, 4 tailored modules of the Executive MBA, put together to make distinct qualifications in their own right. Sometimes people go on and use that as a pathway to the Executive MBA. But they're 4 modules, £22,500, so 4 days each over approximately a year, plus a business project. And the MSc in Major Programme Management, you can see there, so that's double that time, so over 2 years effectively, and you would complete at the end of that period. So without further ado, I'm going to pass on to my colleague Sarah, who's going to start talking about the various different options available.
Hello, it's fantastic to be speaking with you today. So this slide really just to mention some of the different options that we're going to be talking through today. These are by no means the limitations. I'm sure there are other things that you could go out and source yourself, but some of the main options that we find that students use when they come to us. So in terms of self-financing, we have a couple of loan options to talk you through today, and we're really pleased to have somebody from Prodigy Finance talk with us today and to be on the line with us. In terms of speaking with your employer, we're going to look at options there. So whether that's giving you support through financial support or time, just making sure you've thought through that, asking some questions, and having those conversations so we can talk you through some ideas there. And again, we're really pleased to have Gerhard on the line and talk through his experience of that. And scholarship options. So there are scholarships that Oxford offer, and we will talk you through those today, including the all-important deadlines. So in terms of loans, just wanted to briefly mention a company called Future Finance. The kind of headlines here really are to say that these are loans that are available across the diploma programs as well as on the Executive MBA and the MSc in Major Programme Management. And you can borrow, of course, according to affordability, you can borrow minimum 2,500 up to 40,000. So as well as your tuition fees for some of these programs, so for example for the diplomas, they will look at cost of living as well. Primarily though, these are for UK citizens at the moment, and I would really say the note there is for you to go away and find out more. So there's a website link there. And what we will do for everybody attending this webinar is to save this presentation and circulate it later, so that then you can click through from that website. You can capture all the detail that we talk about in terms of deadlines on other slides, and make sure you have all that to hand at a later date. So Future Finance is one option there, particularly potentially for diploma candidates. In terms of other loans that you might not have looked at, again, for those based in the UK, professional and career development loans between £300 and £10,000, so part payment for some of our master's programmes. Again, this is just really a prompt for you to go and research a bit more about that, so please do go and look on the government website about that. For US citizens, there are a couple more options. As well as Prodigy, there are loans through Sallie Mae, which I'm sure most of you are already aware of. And also for veterans, there is a program in place where they can offer loans. So again, please do go away and research that and find out a little bit more about those options. Now, I'm really pleased to introduce somebody from Prodigy Finance called Ayula. I do need to mention that the contact details I have there, and indeed the lovely photograph, are actually from her colleague Juan, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, but would probably be your normal contact. So when I circulate that, it will have Juan's contact details there in case you want to find out any more. But Ayula, if I could just ask you to join us now, and I'm really pleased to have you here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. My name is Ayula, that's correct. I have not provided my email address, but I will start off by doing that. That is not my face, it's true, but my email address is fairly simple. It's just alibi@prodigyfinance.com, which should be nice and easy. If you need to get in touch with either myself or Juan, please do feel free to send any one of us an email, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So thank you very much for that, Sarah. Great. So this is that's the video link.
Okay, so if I play that for us, it's just a short clip telling us a little bit more about Prodigy.
The reason that really drew me to Oxford is the fact that there's 56 countries represented in my class. Someone from Turkey, Japan, Australia, India, and so you're really challenged to think in ways that you've never been asked to. It's important to get my MBA for reasons of legitimacy. I want to go into conversations with investors very confident that they're going to take me seriously. But when I was looking for a loan, I called all these large institutions, and it was sort of shocking that they didn't have international options. And I found Prodigy, and I was like, okay, this makes total sense. The process for getting the funding with Prodigy was actually quite simple. Their support system was really great. They answered questions within about 10 minutes over email. So I definitely understood that I was an individual to Prodigy. I thought the Prodigy model of raising capital for student loans from alumni of the schools was actually quite fascinating, because if there's an industry ripe for disruption, it's definitely the student loan industry. When I'm at my college with my classmates, we go around the circle like, Prodigy, Prodigy, Prodigy. Okay, yeah. We're all sort of part of the Prodigy community now.
Perfect. So that was the Prodigy video, and I think it's probably really nice for you to see at this stage in the application process. Just gives you a very nice idea of what Saïd Business School looks like, and also hopefully enables you to put yourself in Maria's shoes there as well. So just in terms of a very, very quick introduction to Prodigy Finance as a company, so as this slide actually says, we are the only student lending business that focuses exclusively on postgraduate students. That is not to say that if you are a UK student, you are not able to obtain a loan. We actually have a UK lending license, so this means that you would be able to accept a loan if you were a UK student as well. In terms of our background, I'll give you a very, very brief introduction. So we were actually founded by we were founded by three members, two South African students who attended another business school in Europe, and who found that they were really struggling to be able to obtain financing in Europe. This is for reasons that I'm sure are very, very familiar to you. As a foreign student, it's often really difficult to go to a bank in your host country and to be able to get that financing, because you do not have a credit history there typically, and they are not going to want to finance you necessarily. So this is where we step in. Since 2007, when we started, we have funded 116 nationalities, as per our slide there. The majority of our, I suppose, loan portfolio is going very well. In terms of the late and kind of delinquent repayment aspect the portfolio, that's very, very low. So it's only 99% performance there. We've funded to date, I'm really pleased to say, in excess of $160 million. That's really, really good news, because it just means that people from all over the world to be able to access that financing there, which is so, so important. I can't stress enough how much at Prodigy we do not believe in putting barriers between a really, really excellent candidate and them being able to pursue their education. The other great thing about us is that we are truly international. So we like to think of ourselves as the borderless loan provider. We can finance students from up to 150 countries. So that just means that, virtually you're not really going to have any problems there at all. If you would like a more definitive list of the countries that we do finance, then please do take a look at our website. It should be fairly easy to navigate, or failing that, please email Juan or myself. And just another reminder, my email address is aalawi@prodigyfinance.com. We have grown at a really incredible rate. So I have been with Prodigy Finance for about 3 months. And when I joined, there were approximately 60 employees with the company. In a very, very short period of time, we've bumped up. This figure is out of date, actually. It's not 85 employees anymore. It's in excess of 90. It would always be out of date, because we're always hiring somebody new every single day. And just in terms of that international aspect of our company, yes, we do have offices in London, Cape Town and New York. So the majority of the staff that you will be liaising with when you are putting an application in will actually be in Cape Town. And at any given point, if Juan or myself needs to jump in, we'll be doing that from London. I'm currently visiting New York, so yes, it's very, 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 very early, and it's great to start my day with you guys. In terms of the next slide, I'm definitely ready to move on. Great, thank you so much. So, speaking specifically about the loan terms that we have on offer here for the EMBA and the MMPM loans that we're offering at Prodigy Finance, the great news is that we've very, very recently improved our offering. And just a quick note right on that before I go into that in more detail. At Prodigy Finance, we are constantly improving our offering. I know I was speaking about growth right just now, but actually we're a very small, nimble startup, and this just means that we are often able to make changes where it really matters. So, in order for you to be eligible, first and foremost, you must have received an offer of admission from the University of Oxford for an applicable study programme. So obviously in this case we're talking about the MBA and the MMPM loan terms. The one thing I will say is that because we're always innovating, we have recently changed our admissions process and our application form. And this means that you are actually able to start, well, as of the next 2 weeks' time, you will be able to start your application without necessarily having obtained an admission from SBS. If you would like to start your application in the next few weeks, then yes, at a certain point, fairly early on in the process, you will be asked to provide your proof of admission. Once that's done, though, the good news is that the application process will move fairly quickly, and it will be very, very easy to get you through and for you to know exactly the position you're in before you go to Oxford. So the maximum loan size is actually capped at 100% cost of attendance. It's no longer cost of tuition. As of last week, it's cost of attendance. This is great news. It is cost of attendance. 100% cost of tuition. This is great news. It used to be actually 85% cost of tuition, now it's 100%. So it just gives you that added bit of flexibility as well. The reason I'm speaking about flexibility here is because it might be that you would like to use your own saved funds to be able to contribute to your living expenses. And because of now this maximum loan cap, you should be able to do that. The minimum loan size that we offer is either 10,000 GBP or $15,000. A word on this. we currently do offer loans in either US dollars or British pounds, and hence the difference there in the minimum loan size, and then also in terms of what it's about with currency just below that. That just gives you, again, it gives you that added flexibility for when you are repaying your loan. You can repay it in your local currency, most likely. Interest rates here are very, very low. So we're ranging between 5.25% and 7.5%, plus 3 months LIBOR. So that's either going to be for GBP or US dollars there. This is, I mean, it's not something I want to focus too much on, but speaking as somebody who works with other schools as well, I can assure you that this is highly, highly competitive. Competitive / preferential there. It's very, very low, a very low base rate there. The great thing about us, and the reason we are known as the borderless loan provider, is because we do not ask any of our borrowers to provide any evidence of any guarantor. Neither do they have to provide any evidence of having a co-signer, and they do not have to provide collateral either. It just gives that flexibility, and we appreciate, just going back to the story that I told you a few minutes ago, we appreciate that it's difficult to have all of this information if you are leaving a country and starting your educational journey in a brand new one. The administrative fee is 2.5 of the loan amount, but it will be fully amortized, which is frankly quite good because it just means you don't have to worry about any of this in advance. In terms of the repayment, typically we see that student borrowers are given 7 or 10 year loan terms. If you would like to repay early, then by all means, please do that. We are not going to charge you any sort of prepayment fees at all, which again differentiates us from most other providers there. We also appreciate that sometimes life happens, and so we are quite stringent on our grace period there. You'll have a 3-month grace period after your first disbursement. And this gives you the time, but I would like to just highlight here that this means that you must start repaying whilst you are still studying on the programme. Funds are dispersed directly to the school as well, just after the start of class. This again just takes the hassle out of it, means you do not have to do anything there. You don't have to worry about making sure you make that payment on time. If you are a Prodigy borrower, it will always be done on time, and the hassle will always be off your plate. No more grey hairs with regards to taking a Prodigy Finance loan at all. I should say, just before I finish up, is that for any further information, please do visit the Prodigy Finance website. It's obviously www.prodigyfinance.com, and if you go to take a loan, if you click on take a loan at the top of your screen, then you will be taken to a drop-down list of the different universities that we offer loans to, and at that point you'll be able to select University of Oxford Saïd Business School for more specific loan terms and for a bigger overview in terms of the other courses that we offer loans for. Yes, so my name, just recapping, is Iola Albi. That's not my face, that's Juan's face. I was unable to provide a photo due to the time difference. But yes, my email address will be alabi, that's just the initial of my first name, my surname, at prodigyfinance.com. Please do write to me. I'm always happy to respond to queries. Please do kind of peruse our website as well. And I hope that this has been very informative for you. Very, very best of luck with your applications. And it's been a pleasure being with you today. Thank you so much, Sarah. Back to you.
That's great. Thank you very much. We've had a few questions come in, actually, so if you don't mind, I'm just going to keep you there for 1 minute and just focus on those questions while we have people eager for more. So we had a question around the average loan paid, which I guess depends on an applicant's circumstance, but the question was, may I ask what the average loan is paid to applicants, so specifically for the Oxford MBA and MPM programmes. Could you give us just a rough idea of that?
So I can give you a rough idea of Prodigy Finance in general.
Yeah.
So across the whole company is going to be approximately $40,000. That the general average loan size. But again, yes, thank you so much, Sarah, for highlighting the fact that it really will be dependent on your individual application. We take multiple factors into consideration when we're looking at an applicant. This includes pre-course salary, the institution that you're going to, your country of nationality, all of these things. These are only 4 of the factors that I've just highlighted there. In reality, it's many, many more. And so the best way of being able to figure out if you're happy with the loan size that you're going to receive is to put an application in and to get that process moving. And then we're always happy to speak about the loan size and to speak about the general loan term of your offer. And I think it's probably best to do it that way.
Thank you very much. We've got a couple of questions about repayments actually as well. So somebody just wanted to double check that repayment starts after 3 months from disbursement, and that's correct for both the Executive MBA and the MPM, isn't it, for these part-time programmes?
That's absolutely correct there, yes. So repayment would start from 3 months after the first disbursement date. Typically, the disbursement date will be a couple of weeks after the start of your programme. So you're looking at approximately 3 to 4 months, I suppose, after you've started your studies.
And then another question on repayments. Are those done on a monthly or quarterly, annual basis? What sort of basis are they done on, repayments?
The repayments will be done on a monthly basis. Our statements should be super clear, and we'll be getting in touch with you to let you know, A, the outstanding balance of your loan, and then B, the amount that is due that particular month. Again, we really do encourage people to get in touch with any questions that they may have. And so if for whatever reason those monthly statements are not clear, always just feel free to reach out to us.
That's a really good point. So I think we're getting into quite specific circumstances on some of the questions now. So in terms of your very specific questions about repayments over a certain number of years or how much you might be eligible to borrow, I think if you could contact Prodigy direct or use any of the calculator or facilities on their website, that would be the best way to go, and then you'll get a much more specific response. We've had a couple of questions with regards to eligibility for our programme, so it's probably worth my clarifying that Prodigy Finance at the moment don't work with our diploma programmes. Matthew, did you want to say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I can do. So I think a conversation is sort of in train at the moment, actually, between us and Prodigy Finance in terms of our diploma programmes. But that's not something, unfortunately, that's on offer at the current time. And it's one of the reasons why we mentioned at the beginning, towards the beginning of this presentation, about the option of Future Finance, who have provided, I believe, loans for a few of our diploma students. And some of the other options which we've mentioned earlier, which Sarah was talking around, UK development loans, talk about salary sacrifice a little bit in a minute. Those are options for the diploma programmes, but unfortunately at this point, not the Prodigy loans.
And a question just again around eligibility in terms of where you're located, so where you're, to some extent, home countries where you're a citizen of. If I can just clarify, Prodigy have a very wide range of countries that they're able to lend to, citizens of countries they're able to lend to. When I talked very briefly about future finance, they're looking at UK nationals only, UK citizens only. That will all be on the slides when we circulate them, so that will be really clear when we send that around. And I think we're going to hold it there on loans and just move on to our next topic, which was sponsorship through your organisation. So Matthew there briefly referenced salary sacrifice. So just to make sure that you're aware of this, something that might be worth having a conversation with your employer or HR or Learning and Development department about. And basically it's what it says on the slide, that actually you would agree in a reduction of your salary. So you're basically taking a loan on your own salary, and then rather than having to pay it in one big lump sum, you're actually paying it back through your salary, through receiving a lesser amount in your salary each month. Obviously, that isn't something that we are involved in any way. We just wanted to raise that as something that's worked very well for candidates in the past. And I've just put a little note there to say long-term relationships. So if you're an individual in your department, in your organisation, and you are aware of other people that are looking at the same Oxford degree programme as you or another Oxford degree programme, it's really worth contacting us and mentioning that. There might be something that we can do in terms of speaking with your management, speaking with your HR department, and seeing if there's a relationship we can form there. And just taking that a bit further on your behalf and really promoting the benefits of our programmes as well as looking at any of the financial arrangements of that directly with your HR department. So I'm really, really pleased to have Gerhard Mulder on the line. So in terms of seeking financial support from your organisation and indeed seeking support in terms of time away from your organisation, I'm actually going to now hand over to Gerhard, who will describe his own experience for us.
Hi, yes, thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you, and all very informative to me as well. I work for the International Union for Conservation of Nature, which is a non-governmental organization. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because that sort of is an indication of where my salary is, but also the kind of money in terms of scholarships, sponsorships, etc., that they're quite used to, which is, as you can imagine, on the lower end of the expectations. My employer indeed did provide me with a substantial support. So when I got accepted at the diploma financial strategy, what I did was, with some help of Oxford, wrote my business case and basically asked for a amount of money. But at the same time, provided my business case. So I didn't say, hey, I would like to have this much money, and oh, really? Okay, so why would you want to do that? And then submitted my business case. So it was just one bang, one sort of a bit of a shock to them, because we are talking a large amount of money. Of course, in the essay and in the business case, it was a business case that was, why is it important to them? How would my organization benefit? So I listed a bunch of 4 or 5 reasons, which, again, I was inspired by the business case that was submitted, that was provided to me by Oxford University. So it was a bit of it wasn't exactly copy and paste, but it definitely provided some very valuable input. So I asked for a 50% contribution of my tuition plus all travel expenses being paid. After 1 or 2 weeks, they had to sort of chew on it, and then I got word that it was rejected. So, I was slightly disappointed, but I thought, okay, trying to be a good salesman, sales pitch only starts after you've been rejected. So I guess I had to be a bit inventive. And I asked them, of course, why was it rejected? Well, for one reason, they were afraid that if they would invest in this, that my market value would substantially increase, and I would walk away as soon as I would have the diploma in the pocket. I guess that is something that anyone who's considering an Oxford degree, should consider. Your market value will go up, and that may be a reason for your employer to say, okay, perhaps we do not make a contribution. There were some more technical reasons as well, like there were some contractual issues, etc. But what I did was basically, took point by point all the reasons that they listed, or the several reasons that they listed, addressed those concerns, and then made a counter proposal. I said, okay, so if you don't want to pay me 50% of tuition, and perhaps 1/3, and rather than 4 trips, you pay 2 out of 4 trips. Plus, I addressed then all the more technical issues. Also, I promised to pay back the tuition if I would leave within 3 years. And so I had to think about it again. It took a while, but then they came back and said, okay, fantastic, we're going to support you. Now, this was definitely a big thing for them because, like I said, it is a non-governmental organization, and we're still talking 8,000-9,000 British pounds. Whereas on average, if they would, let's say, support one of the employees here, you're talking 1-2, perhaps 2,500 British pounds for a course, but certainly not those kinds of amounts of money. Now, some other aspects that were quite important and that helped me actually pay for this is that the employer was also willing to give me the days off, and that is not insignificant. We're talking easily, 16 days in 12 months, and they were willing to sponsor me for that. We have a rule within the organization that 5% of our time can be dedicated to education, and so it actually fell within the 5%. So that was also very, very helpful. And last but not least, what helped me pay for this is that there's also some tax rules in your country that may be beneficial. In the Netherlands, where I'm from, I can deduct up to 15,000 euro from my in taxes. So that pretty much also pays for another 50% per year on the 15,000. So if you add it all up, it actually became within reach. I still had to take out a loan, which I just went to my regular bank, and I took out a 15,000 euro loan to pay for the balance of the tuition, etc. So if you add it all up, it was a bit, a bit from the employer, a bit from myself, a bit of help from the Dutch government in terms of tax deductibility, and it worked. Thank you. That was my story.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And I guess I have to ask, really, Gerhard, after all that work with your employer and obviously funding yourself as well, through your experience so far, because obviously you're sort of halfway through or slightly less, was it worth it? Has your time at Oxford been worth it so far?
It has been nothing less than spectacular. It's been fantastic. It's like a refurbishment of the mind. That's how I look at it. Sort of somebody cracks open your skull, empties it all out, and then refurbishes it again. And so it's been an absolutely wonderful experience, and I'm very keen to extend it from the diploma that I'm doing now into the Executive MBA. So I'm also very I'm not only here to participate as a contributor, but also as a listener.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Could I ask you to stay with us for a few minutes? I know that we're going to have more questions coming in as we continue. And thanks again, Gerhard. If you could stay with us, and I will just pass over to Matthew to talk through some of the scholarship options now.
Thanks very much, and thanks Gerhard. That was really good. That was really informative. So briefly, and unfortunately it is briefly, I'm going to talk through the various scholarship options that are on offer for these 6 programs. We do have a foundation here. There's the Saïd Foundation, which does fund and put forward scholarship donations for various students, but they tend to go to a different demographic. So they tend to go to the full-time MBA or our Masters in Financial Economics students, for example, and less so, unfortunately, to the executive side. I guess for obvious reasons. However, there are a number of things that we are doing, and this is really, we offer these, and I'll specifically talk about the scholarships for women here. We really offer these because, obviously, as any top business school around the world, we're wanting to promote the role of women in business. And it's absolutely key that we have their voice and their their participation as much as possible in a very diverse cohort. It's an absolutely key part of this. Anybody that comes to study here will sort of tell you, I'm sure, that the people in the room, the calibre of people in the room, and the diversity in terms of nationality and job experience and background, job role and function and sector, as well as gender in all shapes or forms, is absolutely key to the learning experience and then the network. So we do offer a number of things for women. On the Masters in Major Programme Management, we now have 2 scholarships. These are new, actually, again in the last kind of 18 months or so, for the next programme. That programme runs once a year and starts in September. The scholarships are worth 50% of the programme fee. The final deadline, I think, is in July, but the deadline for any female candidate that wants to be considered for those scholarships is the 20th of June. On the Executive MBA, again, we run a couple of different things. We've now moved this year to having 2 intakes per year of the Executive MBA, one starting in September, so that's the next one, and one starting in January. So we've got different deadlines, so you'll see them there. The next deadline is actually for the September cohort for the female scholarships is this Monday coming, and then again there's one in September for the January cohort. Slightly different to the Masters in Major Programme Management in that for each intake we have one scholarship worth 50% of a programme fee. We offer that in conjunction or association with the 30% Club. And one which is offered in conjunction with the Forte Foundation Fellowships for Women, and that is worth £15,000 of the programme fee. Those are on all sides, and I'll talk about the diplomas in a second, have hugely changed the diversity in our cohorts. We're very proud to say, for example, on the Executive MBA side, that this current cohort that we've got in, that started back in January, is 37% female. Compared to sort of down in the sort of early 20s probably only sort of 2 or 3 years ago. On one of the diploma programs in global business, we've gone from around about 10% to 45% female participation in the space of a year, literally since when we started offering these, which is just in the last couple of years. So just briefly, on the diploma side, we have one scholarship worth 50% of the programme fees per year. Each of those 4 programmes starts in the first quarter of a year, generally January, February, sometimes the beginning of March, and they run throughout the year, as I mentioned earlier. So generally people are already applying at this time of year, and then we'll sort of continue to apply throughout our summer, and then the autumn period is absolutely key. So we ask for any female applicants to apply by the 24th of October.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions that have come in for you, Matthew, about the scholarships for women. So somebody asking, how do I apply? Is there additional work to do? Do I need to do this after I actually have my application accepted? How does it work?
Okay, so for most of these programmes, so the Executive MBA, and I'll talk about the Executive MBA and the diplomas. Sarah, I don't know if you want to talk about the Masters in Major Programme Management, but for the other 5 programmes, effectively there is no actual extra essay or anything else that you need to do or submit in order to be considered. Effectively, any female candidate that has applied by the dates that you can see on your screen will be considered. So a lot of the female, so for example, this coming Monday is the final deadline for the Executive MBA for this next cohort. A lot of the female applicants have already applied. Some of those people have already actually been awarded a place. Others will probably wait until Sunday evening to put in their application, but all of those people will be considered without anything extra that they need to do. A similar thing for the diplomas.
So very similar, if not identical, for the MSc in Major Programme Management. So it's probably worth my saying that we make the awards for our scholarships for the MPM based on merit. So we're not asking you to submit any additional work. In fact, you almost would need to opt out of receiving the scholarship. So any female candidates who submit a complete application by the 20th of June would be considered first for a place on the programme, and then secondly, once they're awarded a place, we would look through all of those and consider them for the scholarship. And particularly for the MPM, and it'll be very similar time as the Executive MBA for the September programme, we'll be looking to make those decisions as soon as possible, but likely letting candidates know towards the end of July, probably slightly earlier for the Executive MBA. I've just noticed another question, which I'll go on to if that's okay, about scholarships for women. What happens if I've already applied and paid my deposit? Clearly, we want to keep the process moving for everybody, so we don't want you to wait until we make those decisions and then pay your deposit, because it would hold things up in terms of your college places and things like that. So the format really is that you would pay your deposit, and then that 50% would be taken off the remainder. And so it doesn't affect it in any way. It would still, it's 50% of the entire programme fee, but would come off the amount in terms of actually invoicing you after you've paid your deposit. So please just proceed as normal. And obviously you do need to consider other ways of financing your programme. It is rather late if you wait until the final scholarship for women decision before deciding what to do if you're not awarded the scholarship.
Sarah, there's just one more question actually around...
Is that the eligibility question?
Yeah,
so in terms of UK nationals and so we have a great question here about what if my experience is from, and my professional experience is from another country other than the UK. Absolutely, that wasn't even something I'd thought of mentioning. It's our scholarships are open to people globally, so our diversity within our groups in terms of geographical location is fantastic, and similarly these scholarships are open to absolutely everybody. We welcome people with professional experience from around the world, and generally candidates have really strong professional experience from many countries.
There's another one here. I can address this one. What is the criteria for outstanding female candidates? Is it only first-class candidates? I mean, it's. So I guess it's slightly different per programme, because we're looking for slightly different things per programme. So for the diploma in global business, for example, we're really looking for that international experience, etc., etc. Whether that's from whatever sector you are, whether it's entrepreneurially or in corporate, you could be in insurance or PR or any different. But it would need to be the global experience for that particular programme. But yeah, I mean, we are. There's a number of different things, and there are a committee of people who look at these applications to make the scholarship decisions. Generally speaking, or broadly speaking, and I'll probably forget something here, so please refer to the website for more information. But generally speaking, yeah, we are looking for exceptional candidates. We're looking for future leaders. So we'll be looking at the quality of the application. We'll be looking at your academic credentials, your professional experience, what value you would bring to the cohort overall. As I said, the sort of ambassadorial role, what kind of role could you play for the university and for the business school and for the programme that you've applied for over a period of time. So it's a number of different things, and probably no one of those things is absolutely key. It'll be a mixture of all of those things which would come into play together. As you can imagine, we do receive some absolutely fantastic applications. So I guess all I would say there is, on essays in your application, for example, sometimes it's quite difficult to split people, and so sometimes just sheerly the quality of the essay and how well written and structured and what argument you've put forward, sometimes it can come down to some of those things. So really, you just need to hit it from all angles. But very happy to speak with any individual on a one-to-one basis about that.
Fantastic.
Okay.
And that's a really good point, actually, to mention. Matthew and I will obviously circulate our contact details, and there are probably questions here that we've either missed as multiple questions come in, or if any questions occur to you when we finish, please do contact us for one-to-one conversations and just talk in a bit more detail about your own circumstances.
So this is our last slide, actually, and then we can take any more questions that there might be. This is the last scholarship that there is. It's only applicable for the Executive MBA students, and it's simply to our bonds and forged with the bonds with the Central University here, University of Oxford. We do offer a 50% scholarship for one person who has a full degree qualification from Oxford. That could be a master's, it could be a bachelor's, it could be an undergrad, or actually it could be a doctorate. And again, we've got the same deadline there. We always use the same deadlines. I say always, we have done them the last few years as for women's scholarships. So for this current year, next intake, it's going to be Monday, the 23rd of May. So I think that is just about that from us. I don't know if anybody's got any questions. Maybe we'll stay on the line for a couple of minutes just to see what else comes in. Are we going to be sent this deck around following the call? Yes, we are.
There may be about a week's delay, but we will absolutely do this. We will patch together the sound and the deck that you're seeing, so you've got everything, including our guest speakers, and we'll get that to you in about a week's time. Does anybody have any more questions? Fantastic. Well, there we go. There's a couple more coming through.
Scholarships from any specific countries.
Sorry, there was, so the one thing that we meant to mention, we know there are instances where people have sourced scholarships, funding, loan options from their home countries where we weren't necessarily aware of them either as Oxford or as ourselves working with candidates before. It's always worth checking with your own government, perhaps your previous school, anything like that, your employer, to see if there is any funding options available. For example, each of our degree programs have a large piece of work, so a dissertation or a business project, and some of our candidates have looked at what they could do with that business project to add value either in their own organisation or with another organisation or a charity. For example, basically they've been able to work with an organisation or an individual and say, look, this piece of work is going to be of significant value to you. It can provide recommendations or solutions to your organisation, and they've actually been able to put some financial support against delivering that dissertation back. So that's something that you could think about as well. Really sort of just going back to the initial question of loan options or scholarships in your own country, it's something I'm afraid we just need you to go away and check for yourselves, because these things are changing year on year. There's funding that's always sort of given and withdrawn depending on the situation of a particular country. And again, it's always worth checking the University of Oxford website in case anything else comes up, or other things like that, because that can change year on year.
I think I might just quickly answer this one because I think it's an important one. Do I need to sort out funding before my application is accepted? No is the short answer. Probably, I would imagine a lot of people start to think about the funding and try to sort out that side of it. Some people secure it, some people don't. We would encourage applications as early as possible, but obviously, as part of your application, we do look to make sure that you've got the support of your organisation. So, for example, we always ask for a couple of professional references. We would ask for a reference from your organisation and ideally your sort of direct line manager, if you have one, because we want to make sure that you have got that support. We want to know what they think of you and how they think that that particular course will benefit you. So we are looking for that. However, we're well aware that people don't necessarily have funding sorted at the point of application, so that's fine. If you were to be accepted and made an offer onto that particular programme, you'd be made that offer and you'd have the lucky pleasure of having an invoice sent through to you at the same time for the deposit if you were far enough in advance before the programme start. And that deposit would come with 30 days terms on it to secure your place. So very early in our sort of recruitment cycle, you may be able to wait a little bit of time after that and be fine. At this point, for example, for our Executive MBA, I can talk, that starting in September, I know that those 30-day terms become quite important because there's such competition for space at this point that it is really quite important that people do move relatively fast. So it kind of depends on where you're at in the process, but as a short answer, no.
And then there's a similar question, but more specifically directed towards loan options and Prodigy. Is it possible to apply for admission first and then go on to get an offer and seek financing, for example, from Prodigy? And I just say that, yes, that's exactly the way that Prodigy needs you to do it. So using Prodigy Finance as the kind of hard example, you will need to get an offer for the Executive MBA or the MSc in Major Programme Management from us, and then go to Prodigy with that offer. And I know this time through to sort of mid-August last year, Prodigy were working really hard. We're trying to turn around applications as quickly as they could, and are really keen to work with you over the summer. So if you're now kind of really starting to put the work into your application, or just about to begin your application for the Executive MBA or MPM, that does give you enough time then to receive the offer. I mean, you need to work hard, you need to get your application in soon, but receive that offer, go to Prodigy, get your finances sorted. They're really conscious that you need to get that turned around quickly, and then join us in September. So specifically for the September Executive MBA and MSc.
We've got quite a lot of other specific questions, really, probably regarding individuals. So I'd suggest we take those offline and just do those on a one-to-one basis. I hope that's okay. Gerhard, I don't know if you're still there, but we've also got lots and lots of requests for your contact details. So perhaps we should have that conversation at a separate time as well. Clearly, people have found that very useful.
Yes, no problem.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there. We'd be extremely grateful for any feedback that anybody may have. We've been running these webinars on sort of financing and funding over the last year or so, but always keen to hear what people have to say, how useful it is, things that you may like included next time. Thanks very much for joining us, and goodbye.
Brilliant. Thank you.